They be hitting me. They'd be like, you don't got enough storage, and I will be upset. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sacred Living Daily Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I am your host, Jalen Levon, and today I have my favorite. It's a favorite because she's been on the podcast before. But if you're new to the space, okay, this is the first time that you've probably heard her. So I'm so excited to introduce to you my sister, it's like cousin, sister, like soul guide, all the things. This is the divine time goddess, Sage Soul herself. How are you, love?
I am vibrant today, especially sharing this space with you.
Yes, vibrant. I love that word. I love that.
Thanks.
So share a little bit with about yourself with the folks who may not be familiar with your work and just who you are as a person.
Well, I am in a healing space right now. I'm on a healing journey. So I first want to start with I am a human, just like everyone listening to this right now. And I am in a space of sharing my spiritual awakening journey, sharing my desire to connect with beautiful souls and to raise the vibration of this planet. So I call myself Divine Time Goddess because I found myself over the years as I was learning more about who I was and who I wanted to present myself as in the world, right? And not what people wanted to just see or what I thought the society expected of me. I started to delve into what divine timing was. I would always hear that phrase like, oh, in divine timing. And I realized that for me, divine timing was being able to take an intentional pause, slow
Mm-hmm.
down, reflect, and really feel into what was right for me. So this is what I've been doing for the last couple of years, just sharing, using tools like numerology, using tools like delving into astrology. I'm pretty new to it, but delving into astrology, delving into even oracle and really understanding that we are oracles ourselves. We're just remembering the wisdom we forgot, tapping into Mother Earth. That's a big part of the divine time guidance that I share, is understanding that it's really just about flowing with the natural cycles of life. And I call myself a spiritual rebirth artist because one thing that I've learned on this spiritual journey is that I kept moving away from what my soul was calling me towards, which was really tapping into sound healing and being an artist. But I was and you're going to love this because we're going to talk about this today, I'm sure, I was so afraid of my own voice and I didn't like it. And I didn't think society wanted to hear it. So I ran away from it. And being a spiritual rebirth artist is all about understanding that we are constantly needing to allow certain parts of us to fall away and die away to begin a new life and to speak and sing ourselves into existence. So that's a little bit about what I believe in. And I believe that should be enough to know who I am, because that's just what I do every day. It's interesting when
Mm-hmm.
someone asks you, who are you? What do you do? It's just like, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
my life and trying to share as much light from that as possible.
Yes. Okay. And that is the perfect segue in today's topic, which is main character energy. And I truly believe that that's what main character energy is. It's you recognizing and what I'm calling playfully discovering who you are, so that way you can really and learn to fully embody that identity or that way of being without feeling any type of way about it. Because like you said, like in society, and this is something that I'm learning, especially being a Black woman, okay, in America, is the fact that it is this pressure to strive, this pressure to achieve, this pressure to, you got to be 10 times better in order to get half. Like, I remember growing up and being like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not into that. I don't feel like I have to do 10 times more in order to get half. That is like, it's crazy how much lack we've been programmed to see as just normal and natural. And I'm just like, nah, because the God I serve is about abundance. He's about, like, the energy is about love. Like, I've even gotten to the point where it's like I hate to personify God and creator energy because it debunks the omnipresence that we speak about and describe the energy as. So when it comes to this main character energy, I've really been learning how it's about, like, literally embodying your godliness, like embodying your, inner God, that inner G, baby G within you. And I would love to know, like, as a spiritual rebirth guide and coach, how like how has that process been helping you? You know, you helping other people recover their voice and their love for their voice. How has that tapped into you embodying your own main character energy?
So, moment of transparency and honesty, which we all need, right? So, first and foremost, I am a mom, right? Like I'm a human before I'm a mom, but what I've learned, so I homeschool my son, and our title, right, with working with the kids is learning coach. All
Mhm.
right. And so I had to learn through my journey that I had to stop calling myself like a coach or a guide or a consultant, all those things, and just remember that I am still learning. And there's a lot of things that I don't know. And just to allow people to understand, like I'm facilitating, right? Which some people don't even understand what facilitation means. It's really just making the journey easier by being there and holding your hands. I'm not giving you something. I'm not a guru. I'm not giving you something that you wouldn't be able to get yourself. So I had to learn that by also like experiencing my parenting journey. And I actually, whenever I first got into numerology and divine timing, after I left my music career, I started working with people and I got stressed out. I got burnt out. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I was a what do you call it? Imposter. Remember imposter syndrome? I felt like a fraud because I was supposed to help these people and then realize, oh, I don't know if I can do this because like maybe there's some things that person needed help with that I hadn't experienced yet, right?
Mhm.
And so I always had to bring it back to let me use what I've been through and call in the people that are with me, or maybe just a couple steps behind me that are on a similar journey that I can say, hey, I've been through this. This is how I got through it. I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but this is what I've learned. So, what I've learned about the main character energy through being a learning coach, helping
Mhm.
people learn and coaching them through it with inspiration has been that being a main character is not about knowing it all. Being a main character is not about being the all-seeing goddess, right? It's not just about those things. We all get there at some point of mastery, but it's about understanding that being the main character means allowing and support. It means allowing invulnerability. It means even though you may not have it all together and you may be in transition yourself, being honest and also leading with integrity. That's what I've learned. And I learned to take a timeout. That's why I call, what I do outside of Divine Time Goddess, my community that I'm building over time is Divine Timeout. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times I need that pause to recalibrate and
Yes.
reevaluate. Is what I'm doing good for my soul, my mind, my body? Is it really helping people? Or am I just kind of chasing another goal because this is what maybe I think I should be doing as a
Mhm.
coach or as a mentor, or as an artist, or whatever these different things we call ourselves. So I hope I answered that question, but that's what I
Yes.
learned, to be patient and realize that
Yes.
I can be a master and a student at the same time.
Yes, I love that you brought that up too, because one thing, and I forget who said it, but she made a really good point, basically saying like a lot of times as a intuitive, as a coach, healer, all these things, we all possess those aspects within ourselves because we have to coach ourselves when we don't want to do something. We have to, what I'm saying, like nurture ourselves when we're not getting it from others. And I think where that imposter syndrome tends to creep in with main character energy is almost like forgetting your lines. And it's so funny because like in my inner child healing journey, I've been doing a lot of reflection, and I marvel at my younger self because she was such a center stage young gal. Like she was such a see me. Oh, you want me in the front? Great. I'll do that for you. And it's been a journey rediscovering at what point did I like, okay, put me in the back. Oh no, I'm going to be supporting. Oh no, I'm going to just put me on the production team, or no, just put me in sound, or no, just I started to like step to the back so much. And it's so funny because I'm like, when I have those moments where imposter syndrome comes up, it's literally just like those moments where I was like on stage being my main character that I'm supposed to be in the play or the skit that I'm working on. And I'm like, but also the support that I've learned in that same like analogy is like being able to like the person who has your lines you can just scream out in practice like line. It's like my ancestors are those people who are like, I'm like, line, where's the line? And being able to receive that guidance and being able to trust, because sometimes we can also be like, are you sure, like are you really sure that's my path, God? Like, I know you created me, but are you sure that's the direction you want me to go? And it's like, how many times do God gotta bop you over the head to be like, yeah, this is exactly where I want you to take up space. And I know it may seem like you're not qualified. It may seem like you don't have all the answers. It may seem like you can't remember your lines for whatever reason. Um, but that's where it's so funny. I've been wanting to do like an improv class because I think that that will help tap into that, just like that innate wit, that innate like being able to pivot in the moment. And I think when dealing with or when learning to be embody this main character energy, it's literally about trusting yourself. And I'm not sure about you, but how has that journey been? Like, how has trusting yourself kind of um, invested itself into your journey of honoring your main character energy?
Yeah, self-trust is it's something we actually cannot go without. And it's something I've been talking about a lot. So, hi, you hear the basketball. So, trusting myself had to start, I would say, anytime I shift into something new,
Mhm.
I'm always in that space of fear for a small amount of time where I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna just destroy this. I'm gonna mess this up. This is not gonna be good. Like I get to that like anxious, like in my head energy, and then I have to say, trust yourself. You
Mhm.
know, you know where your heart is. You know what your intentions are. You know that you have integrity. You know that you are constantly connected. You are rooted on earth and supported by mother. You are connected to cosmic energy. Trust yourself,
Mhm.
right? And so that has been a really big part of my journey because if I couldn't learn to trust myself, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do, especially when it comes to facilitating other people's journeys when I can, when I'm called to. And that's
Mhm.
not all the time. Like right now, I'm in a space in my spiritual career where I'm facilitating journeys when people come to me, if that makes sense. I'm not
Absolutely.
actively reaching out, like, hey, I'm doing this, or I'm constantly on Instagram, like, hey, no, it's like people will call me. People will
Mhm.
just, come into, my space and then I'll help facilitate. But I was told to sit down, to heal,
Mhm.
and to get my home right. And that's one of the things I admire
Mhm.
about you, Queen, because you have been showing up, right, Hoodoo Housewife, and sharing the everyday magic of just getting the domestic harmony, right, all tight. And that's what I've been learning to do.
Mm.
It's been hard for me, but that's what I've been called to do, just like authentically trust yourself by trusting that you can be in an empowered state by being at home and taking care of the things that you're supposed to do as a person healing and also a mother and future,
Mhm.
future wife.
Okay,
It's
yes.
all about that balance of divine feminine and masculine energy.
And I love that you brought that up too, because that has been, and I personally feel like that everyday magic, it's my Saturn return. I give Saturn all that credit for just the divine guidance and the audacity that I've been resting in, because it has been, it has been a journey for sure, just recovering who I am outside of youth and adolescence. I think that, especially, there was also another thing. I was talking to my therapist about this, and I'm just like, I recognize also I'm getting to know myself outside of work. And it's hilarious because for so long I've given my energy, my magic, my creative vibe, and just my zhuzh into the world. I've been pouring it into other people and other organizations. And when I was working corporate and all of those things, and then me and my husband were literally just reflecting on what that would look like in my home space. And he would be like, oh, there were days when I would get home and the dishes weren't clean. And I didn't want to say anything because I knew that you were tired. And just that you can tell that it was off balance because the shift was off. And so I'm like, okay. So when I leaped into entrepreneurship, I'm like, I don't care what's going to happen. I don't care. And that was Saturn return, like pre-Saturn return, when you sit there and you're evaluating, you're like, what the hell is my life? What am I supposed to be doing with my time, with my energy right now? And realizing like, okay, well, where I am isn't serving me. In order for me to discover what it is that I need to go somewhere else. And Saturn literally forced me to do that. Very tower car energy. Saturn was like, get over here and sit and be still and don't say anything. Don't. And my Gemini self is like, but the people need me. My Gemini rising is like, the people need me. Like, what am I going to do? And the Hoodoo housewife has been, it's the rebirth. It's the rebirth of, instead of me pouring all this into other people, I'm serving myself. I'm giving to myself. I'm loving on myself. I'm empowering myself and trusting that in that empowerment, I am creating balance within my relationships. I'm creating balance within every other aspect of my life. And that's, it's like the magic. Like, and it's so funny. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Maddie James, but she just released a book. She's like an influencer, a lifestyle influencer. She's also like a mom of three, but she just released a book called Everyday Magic. And it's so like literally like divinely timed, everyday magic. And I'm excited to get it because I'm definitely going to pre-order it. But basically what she's been sharing about the book is how she's been balancing it all, how she's been the lifestyle influencer for the last 10 years while being married, while we're, running multiple facets of her entrepreneurship journey, while just doing all of these things. And I'm like, ooh, because it's so interesting that with the main character energy, and when we're called to sit and be still and not do, right? Not do for others, but really focus on self. And then recognizing when we are allowed or have the space to invite others in to guide them or help or however. It's really a matter of, just like you said, like that trust and knowing how to read the gut and be like, is this where I need to go? Is this what it is? So I really love that. And I know are you in your Saturn return, or kind of like, or is it like wrapping up? Do you feel like, how do you feel within your Saturn return? Or how has your Saturn return kind of affected that shift in your main character energy?
I'm definitely in the midst of my Saturn return. It's coming to a close in 2023 for sure. Around like March, because typically it's like 3 years to Saturn
It's
return.
like 2 or 3 years, yeah.
Yeah. So mine's is pushing towards the end. Yeah. So absolutely, when you said the tower energy, just the tower is falling, I definitely felt the crumbling. And one thing I've realized about this Saturn return being an Aquarius for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it very much was connected to like the mental space that I was in with my work, because my Saturn is in my 8th house, right? It's
Mm.
in partnerships and things like that. So I definitely saw a lot of partnerships, a lot of different things in my spiritual career that I thought I was building, or I was building, but really,
Mm-hmm.
right, it's time for a whole new strengthened foundation, because that's what Saturn is about. I was building my foundation on a mental space, right, that was
Mm-hmm.
not really helping for my overall health. I
Mm.
was burning myself out, and I was very much in this intellectual, and we can do that as rising Geminis too, like just being in this, okay, I got to learn everything, and I got to make sure I sound really, really smart when I talk about it, and I got to do all these things, and I got to have my glasses on, and I got, and then, but it's like earth and fire has been calling my name. And I feel like for a long time, even with numerology, right, being the divine time goddess and all that stuff, you can get very much stuck in that airspace. And I think that is very good to a certain extent, but everything requires balance. And so this Saturn return has taught me, get back to earth, right? Get back into having that rebirth of your passion and purpose with that fire energy, because the opposite of the Aquarius is Leo, right? So it taught me how to become a much more tuned into where my personal power source, right, is, coming from, which is the actual sun, which is my ancestors. So Saturn return has actually helped me return back to my source and away from things that pull me further and further and further away, but looks like success on the outside. So Saturn return has definitely taught me that my main character energy has to always be in a space to constantly be honest with myself, and to go back to what helps me remember that my confidence, my natural confidence, as the subject of this story, is always going back to my ancestral DNA, always going back to what actually makes me happy and what I really want to talk about, because I used to get caught up in, what do they want to hear today? People want to hear about numerology. They want to learn about the number 11 today, but my heart is screaming 3 right now, right? So it's getting to that space to be honest and say, I know what you all want, but what my heart is saying is this. I hope this resonates, take this with love. And when I feel compelled to, I'll come back and talk about that. But I don't want to be inauthentic because it would be a disservice to you. I had to get back to that level of confidence, and Saturn return, oh man, it shook me. And this is something I want to share with you today. So, and please take this with love, whoever's listening. As an Indigenous Black woman, relearning my sacred power and understanding us as a people, and all the new things that we're waking up to in this world and in this country. A lot of my business was, and I don't even use the word business anymore, but a lot of my career at the time was centered and fueled by women who weren't of color. So all of my clients, I probably had about 2 clients that were Black, Indigenous people of color. And it wasn't by choice. That's just what I was calling in, because I had fear for such a long time that I wouldn't be able to be accepted by my own, because the way I was raised, not by my parents, but in our society, we think that if you talk a certain way and if you are into certain things or whatever, you're weird, or you talk like a white girl, or you're weird, or you're in that crowd. And so even though life isn't like that in 2022 anymore, and we've woke up, right? We're woke. We still have that subconscious program from childhood. And so I feel like the fear of not being able to authentically connect with my sisters and my brothers of Indigenous ancestry, my subconscious, I was calling in these white women who would literally worship me, right? And I was making it, no, seriously, they would worship me. Oh my God, beautiful Black queen and all this stuff. And I just, inside I was yearning, like, but I want to have this connection with my sisters. And so Saturn return, all of that fell apart. My business, and it fell apart here because, again, Aquarius energy is mental energy, right? Thoughts, mindset, all of my thoughts just went haywire. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit in these sessions and allow myself to get sucked dry, because that's what was happening. I don't want to give away my ancestral power and healing energy anymore to, and not all people, but for some of those people who would just kind of take that and learn how to repackage it in whatever way would benefit them, and go put a non-Indigenous face on it, and how they patent it and copyright and do all things. So it's like Saturn return really helped me to return back to myself. And I will share this part with you too. Specifically, going into the astrology of it just a little tiny bit, the star that my Saturn sits on is the back of the eagle. And I always love that story because it's about, it has to do with music. So the harp, there's a bigger story, but the harp was on the back of the eagle and returned to heaven because there was a musician who had the power to just really invoke emotion and to really just the power of sound, right? And when he passed, it's a whole story. It was Orpheus, I believe his name was. He passed. The harp, which was a gift from the divine, sound and music being a gift from heaven itself to help get us moving, right? It was returned to heaven, returned to the land of the divine, right, by the eagle. And so I remember thinking one day, I'm like, this is me returning back to my source, returning back to healing myself and using the powerful sound energy of my voice to heal my own, and to return back to reclaiming what is mine and what is ours as Indigenous people first, before I go and work with people that are of other influence. All love to them, but I got to start home. And that is what really helped me figure out that main character energy for me had a lot to do with me realizing that, yeah, I'm the main character today, but also my sis is, and my brother is. And when we come together as main characters in this, bringing back and returning to our real herstory, right? To our real story, we're all being called to shift into these differing roles, and we're all being called to shift into main character at some point. And then some of us are called to be supportive roles. So I don't know if that answers the question the way you needed it, but that's what.
No, it's okay. Yes, okay. Let's talk about it, please, because I want to start with saying this, because I was actually supposed to lead with this quote and I completely forgot. But Miss Kev on Stage, also, well, her name is Melissa Fredericks, but also known as Miss Kev on Stage. She is also an influencer, but she wrote a book a long time ago as well. But she has a quote where she said, "In this current state, I am worth it as is, without change, without exception."
Okay.
And when she said that, when she came up with this life mantra, she was looking for a used car, and she said she was set at the dealership, and she said in the window, biggest day, it said, The cars are sold as is, without change, without exception. So, and she said it's people coming on this lot, this car lot, that's like looking for their dream cars. They're ecstatic when they leave this lot. And she said that in that moment, she was like, wow, if only I felt like that about myself. And she mentions a lot of that same thing. Even Tabitha Brown talks about that as well in her book, where she talks about showing up as her authentic self with the Southern twang, with the colorful outfits, with the love, with the feels. And it's so interesting that, especially as Black women, Indigenous women, going back to the point of us feeling like we've been taught actually to work 5 times as harder in order to get half. And like you were saying, I was in the same boat. That's why I had to pull back from Reiki. I was teaching Reiki. I was offering it on a regular basis, but the same as my clientele never reflected me. I had a couple of like friends and family that would buy a service or whatever for a Reiki, but other than that, in terms of distance Reiki, it was always non-melanated individuals. And I had to realize the amount of for one, to be a Reiki practitioner, you basically volunteer as tribute to be a vessel. Period. Like, you volunteer as tribute to be a vessel. Let's just get that out there. So now that you didn't raise your hand to tell God that you want to be a channel for divine light and love and energy, you also are opening yourself to and to this person's auric field. And in doing so, you then basically, and I hate to use this word possess, but that's for lack of better terms at this moment, you essentially are possessed by their essence. And the last Reiki session that I did, which when I say it pulled me all the way back, I was doing a distance Reiki session, and I only take one distance Reiki session like per week because of the distance, depending on how it's a lot of work that goes into it. And so this last client that I had, I remember for a week straight, I was eating like I was like losing it. You would have thought that I'm not gonna say I don't have a big appetite because I do to some degree as far as like things that I like to eat, but like how much I was consuming, to be honest, you would have thought I was pregnant because it was like so much. You would have thought I was eating so much. And then that happened for like 3 days. By day 4, I felt like shit. I was like, what is going on? My stomach, my back, my body, what is happening? And then the day after that, I was completely clear as if nothing happened. So I was like, that's odd. So on that free day of feeling like myself again, I did all of my cleanse. I finally felt ready to actually do the distance Reiki session. And as soon as I like get into it, I realized like, girl, you've been in this energy for a week now. Because everything that was coming back and it's crazy because I felt crazy sending her the Reiki report, because when I thought I was projecting. I thought that I'm telling this lady my experience, and I don't know, like it's crazy how much our experiences for this week were mirroring. But when she messaged me back like, oh my God, Luna, oh my God, like, how did you know? How were you even? How da 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 da? And I'm like, I literally had to just tell you how I was feeling, because for a week, that was the energy that was consuming my life, literally. And I was like, oh, okay. First of all, the price has gone up. Second of all, I can't take on more than I can chew. And literally in that main character, that honoring myself, like, trying to, when we get into this space of feeling like we're not worthy or we don't have enough, we then start to feel like we need to change ourselves, right? We need to come up with all of these different masks in order to fit into certain rooms, into certain areas. And I like how you said that feeling of wanting, like, yes, I'm getting the recognition, I may be getting the praise that my ego loves, my ego enjoys, but again, it doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel like, these are my sisters who are also benefiting from this healing, And then I often think too, like, I remember early in my journey, I followed a lot of very pro-Black coaches and healers and things like that. And I would be confused, like, why don't they offer their service to people other than Black, Indigenous people of color? And they would, and it's so interesting too, because back in a few years ago when I was a talent management artist or a talent manager, I had an artist who had this complete national, it was a debacle. But this whole situation with it was an organization, this festival that had this difference in pricing. If you were a person of color, you got a discount. If you weren't, you had to pay full price. And their argument behind it was because, you know, there's a lot of festivals like Rolling Loud, Coachella, all these things that where Black artists are performing, but you don't see any Black art, you don't see any Black people in the audience. Like, because Black people can't afford the $400 tickets. They don't have that $400 to just dispose to go to this musical concert. So it made sense, but the way it was marketed was just, it lacked tact. It lacked tact so much. So I completely understood. But the artist that I was representing is biracial, and her grandmother, like, she was in that womb at one point. She's a white woman, and she immediately was triggered. And it's like, it makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of things that had to go with it, but now here I am where I feel like I only want to offer my services to women of color. And I pray that my biracial sisters don't feel offense to that, because that includes you, you know, that definitely includes you, because you are a part of the culture. You are a part of our lineage just as much as me being both, you know, indigenous and what I'm learning also is Latin indigenous, which is blowing my mind for myself. But when we learn these things about our heritage, about our family, about our roots, about our blood and bones, it adds to that courage. It adds to that confidence of that main character energy. So when we are in front of our sisters who look like us, we don't feel like we have to hide behind our pain or even hide our pain altogether. Because to be honest and just quite frank, white people can't relate. They just really cannot relate to the generational weight of being a Black woman. And it's that's just the way our cards were dealt. Like, I mean, we have to roll with the punches. We have to still learn to heal. We still, and a lot of the information that we are recovering was information that their ancestors stole and gave it to the family and told the family how to create this longevity and generational wealth. And, you know, I think back to, it's so funny because going back to the point of the Hoodoo housewife, and I know this may sound all over the place for those who listen, but just vibe, just ride with our Gemini rising energy, just roll with it.
Yeah.
But I was doing some research on my family, and I was like, okay, how can I was like, lead me to where we need to be. Like, take me to where my roots are thick, you know, like where they're strong, where there can't nothing stop them. And I kept having dreams about like Texas. I kept having dreams about Florida. I kept having dreams about all these very Gulf states. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I have family, our roots we know of straight from Mississippi. So I can imagine them spreading out from there. But then after just recovering that information, my father tells me some information that he discovers, and it's just been this whole like puzzle. And when I say that, it has fueled me with so much like, this is why I was doing all this work all along. This is it. When I say it has been so confirming, I'm like, this is what I feel like every Black woman should feel. Like, every Black woman should feel like a Hoodoo housewife. Every Black woman should feel like, even though I may have put a full 8 hours in at my job, I know that when I come home, it's my sanctuary. I'm not upset that I left a couple dishes in the sink. Let me wash them, get them together. That's going to allow me to decompress my mind. Like, hearing that running water. Sometimes we, you know, run the water when you wash dishes. It helps. Like, I know it. I like to be aware and conscious of my consumption as well, as far as my ecological footprint. But I personally feel like, as daughters of the water, we get a get out of jail free card. We get a get out of jail free card for running the water, like for being water babies, because we love it. It's where we come from. You know, I think about the Orisha Yemenya, you know, just her just really just coming in and just like wrapping us all up in literally her womb, and we're just all her fish, and we're just like, you know, swimming around just a school of fish, learning ourselves in this environment that we're in. So I'm just like, I love that story about the Orpheus thing, because I feel like just taking advice from certain deities and certain mythology that allows us to see ourselves, aka the Bible, but being able to see ourselves in these parables and these stories and these tales of wisdom, it's especially when it feels like home, it's, you don't have to repackage it, you don't have to whitewash it, you don't have to water it down, you don't have to, like you said, put on the look to make yourself appear to be qualified. Like, you are already qualified because you are born into this world, but also because of your experience, and not just in this lifetime but the ones before that. And when we embody that care, that when we literally take all of those stories that we have for ourselves and like speak them out, like that's what the project Coming Home was for me. It was literally me speaking out, this is how my life looked from my view. These are these moments in my life that I felt like I knew that I didn't give it my all, but I still triumph at the end of it. You know, I may have not invested what I needed to do at that time, but Saturn made sure that came right back for me to learn it, and I had to show up the next time. So it's like, I encourage those who are embodying or learning to embody the main character energy, that you recognize that you are worthy as is. Like, you are worthy as is, the way God created you, the way you came through your mama womb, regardless if that was through the vaginal walls or a C-section. You came out that mug, and you are here on this planet, in this realm, existing like everyone else. And just like everyone else, like the choice to truly live from your heart space, that is the scariest shit you could ever do, but it's so essential. Like, it's so essential. And with both me and Sage being Leos, and just like really like understanding what having big emotions really feels like and how to navigate this world, please let me know, Sage, have you ever felt like, and this in this lifetime or maybe like in your childhood, but have you ever felt like you've had to hide your big emotions, your big personality that comes with being, I mean, we're the sun. Like, we just come with the being the sun and being ruled by Mercury.
Yeah, what's interesting is when you asked that, immediately the first thing that came to my heart without thinking was more of like the spiritual experiences that I was having, along with my creative expression, if that makes sense. So like I
Hmm.
experienced a lot of spiritual, what some people would say paranormal, supernatural things when I was younger that I didn't understand. And so when I would present that to family, or other people that were a part of my life, then I would feel crazy, like I was exaggerating, like maybe, they would say, don't lie about things. And it's like, no, it's just these things are happening and you want to be able to express them. That's a big part of the Leo energy and main character energy is too, is like when you are creating, you are tapping into the supernatural power that the divine put in us, right? And so
Hmm.
when you create in a consistent space of creating, you are also connecting with other realms and dimensions and frequencies and cosmic energies and
Hmm.
ancestral powers. And so you experience these things. So I do feel like, honestly, I did stop talking about certain things
Hmm.
during a certain period of my life.
Hmm.
Whenever I was in school, I would say like in high school, I did feel more reserved because I felt like, like the odd one out. I was one of those girls, like everyone knew me, right? And I was like
Hmm.
popular because I was me, right? We're Leos, but I was never like, we was never like in the crowd. You're like
Hmm.
a weird person is what people considered you when you were in high school and you're
Hmm.
kind of spiritual and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think because of that, I took some of that in my younger year. And yeah, it caused me to be more reserved and things like that. And that did still affect adulthood, even up until now, still healing from breaking out of those mental prisons that we kind of conform to. So I definitely feel like, that big Leo energy was kind of like, like, how can you put a sun in a box, right? But we try so hard. And what does that lead to? It leads to depression because I like to say that some forms of depression come from repressing and we repress a lot of our light, and kind of try to dim to fit in. And it's like you can't do it. You're going to implode from the inside. That star is going to explode, right? And something's going to happen, but it's just best to just let it out and just shine and be free. So I definitely over the years have felt in that space. And then also with my music career, that was always connected to my spiritual life, right? My spiritual journey. I always made myself small because I felt like I didn't have the voice of a Beyonce. I didn't have the voice of a typical person that you like. It's aesthetically pleasing. I always had like a lower register and I always had like this raw kind of like gritty kind of sound. And because of that, I didn't want to feel like I was offending anyone. My voice is loud or my voice is too deep or my voice used to make people cry because I was always very, very into shadow singing. So like, if I'm sad, I'm going to sing it out. Right. And what happens is that's that empath energy. People will then hear that sound and connect to their own emotion. And, I used to take that as, oh, this is a bad thing because people don't want to be sad. But I didn't realize, no, you are absolutely supposed to just be you because that helps them reconnect to their emotions in order to heal. If you don't allow yourself to grieve, you cannot then heal. And so my voice was doing that, but I kept it small and I started to do other types of music, right? So dimming down that Leo sun energy to make other people happy. But really what gives them life is just being authentic. So I definitely can relate to that energy. And then also I started to look into that as a mother, having a little Sagittarius boy. He's real fired up. He's very opinionated. He's always right. And he's got a big personality as well, another fire sign, right? And, I love him, and I'm one of them I'm one of the parents that I don't raise my son like how we were raised, to a certain extent. I never beat my child. I never, none of those things. But it then presents another, challenge where it's like, okay, what are they gonna respect now? Like they don't have the fear thing because I don't do all that. And so I had to learn how to not be small, keep my communication small when it came to him, because with me trying to protect him and raise him in a way where I wanted him to have big energy, I would then not be as big with my energy. Like if I was upset at him or if I wanted him to listen or if I wanted him to learn something, and I would make myself small. And then now at 9 years old, I have to deal with him like, no, I'm not doing that, mom. And I'm like, who God, I'm the son and I can give you life, but I can burn this up too. So it's like all throughout my life, I've experienced that. And it's been a constant battle, to fight for my right to just shine and express passion and purpose. And even when you are angry, because that's a big part of Leo, or not Leo, just Leo, because we're Leo, so I'm all into the Leo energy. But that big sun main character energy is that yes, you're more seen, you're more heard, and you're more at the center stage, right? But it doesn't mean that you need to, again, dim yourself down or not be your authentic self. Why? One, it helps you learn. We're all afraid that, oh, if I just be my full self on camera, or, when somebody's watching, they're not going to like me. They're going to think that I'm a fraud, or they're going to think no, I can be both aligned and high vibrational. And I don't even like to say high vibrational. I like to say balanced. I am balanced, because if I get too high vibrational, what happens? I'm going to flip to the extreme opposite at some point, right? Because that's just what happens. You got to stay in in the scales of balance. But I had to learn that it's very important to also express when I am not okay. I had to express when I am not motivated or inspired, and still share that big energy that comes with that, because it's a big part of it. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I love that you made that point too, because I feel like especially when coming into the main character energy, you feel like you have to be on and it has to be good news all the time. And main character energy, and this is a point I wanted to make earlier too, is back to if this is a movie, right? If this is the movie of our life, and in this movie of our life, um, the main character isn't just on the top. Like there's conflict. We need the ebb and flow in the story in order to stay hooked. And it's so funny too, because when I think about main character, or not main, the sun energy, I mean, it's ruled by Leo, but I often think about just that spotlight, when the spotlight is on you, right? Even on stage, what is the first thing that people do? Is like they fix,
yeah,
they they make sure everything is perfect in print, because the spotlight is on them. When I think a lot of the times what I think people hate about Leos is the fact that we don't feel that we got to do all of that. You're gonna get what you get when the spotlight never left me. So it's funny that you think the spotlight left. Like it's funny that you thought that my boho chic look wasn't intentional. It's funny that you think that the way that I present myself or decide that I want to show up in the world is not fully intentional. And there is time, I can definitely recall moments in my life where I wasn't moving with in my own intention. It was like, oh, okay, I have to show up this way because this is the job I have. When
Right.
it's like, if you didn't want to wear black all day, you didn't have to wear black all day. If that's not your actual uniform, then there's no reason why you feel like you had to do that. But it's our environment, it's the environment that we put ourselves in, or maybe that we are in without a lot of control per se. Um, but even in that, like, I find myself going back to the point of like working with more Black, Indigenous people, women of color specifically. I've also called myself to get off that high horse, because working with non-melanated folks will put you up there. You will literally be like on this platter, essentially, because it's not a pedestal, it's a platter, because they're gonna eat you alive. And it's hilarious that we don't see it as we break down when it crumbles, because it's not safe for us in the first place. And I realized that it's so funny, because I'm like, okay, coming out of my hermit hole, and it's like, all right, all this we've learned, all this wisdom, all this light love that we've shed on the shadow, all this integration that we've been doing. Okay, what does main character energy feel like?
Mm.
And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in what it looks like that we don't even associate it with a feeling. So that's why that imposter syndrome can come right back in, because it's a mask. You don't even feel it. And which feeling is the biggest part of manifestation. If you don't feel that $1,000,000 coming into your bank account, baby, you ain't getting it. Which is even with work. Like, I was sharing this with my husband. I'm like, the work that we put in, regardless if it's for ourselves or we actually have to punch a clock, that is an energy exchange. We may not recoup that energy, receive what we put in on the back right away, but it's going to eventually show up, and it's a matter of patience. And it's so funny because my husband, he's a gamer, and my all of my nephews are as well. So they like, Uncle Derek, when you getting on the game, like, what's going on? And he like, well, I got PlayStation, I don't have Xbox. They like, well, we want to play Fortnite. He like, I'm not playing no Fortnite. And so it's so funny. I was like, I don't know why, but I just had this nudge to like look to find out what Fortnite meant. Like, is this a word that they made up, or is this an actual word? And of course, it's an actual word that means bi-weekly.
Yeah.
It means to occur on a bi-weekly basis. I'm like, dang. So folks be getting paid on Fortnite. Like, folks be getting paid Fortnite. Like it, and just the words and how we communicate and how we use these words to call titles and just do certain things in our world, we don't realize that we're actually manifesting those things because they have feeling, they have energy connected to them. And so if it's like, I'm like, I don't know why that, I was just like, look and see what that means. And when I looked it up, I was like, cycles. Interesting. And I even started looking at the game a lot differently. I'm like, okay, you have this avatar, you literally have to build and defend.
Yeah.
You literally have to build and defend as things are coming closer and closer and closer. The map is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Is that not our life? Is that not our life, that we are literally here working to build and defend, and the shit is just closing in and closing in and closing in and closing in and closing in? And as soon as you go outside of that map, all of a sudden you like, it's a weird programming. And it's like, very interesting that subconsciously they don't even know what they're doing, but it's fun. And I hate to be the aunt that's like, that's damaging. I'm that aunt. I'm that aunt that's like, stop eating that sugar. Stop eating all that sugar. Stop doing all this. Stop doing all that. Stop. Balance. Balance. You need balance, because I know what childhood is, and I'm paying for all of my candy intake. I am paying. Saturn is kicking my ass from all the candy I ate as a child. And I can't be upset with nobody else but myself. Like, I can't be like, damn, this cavity, I had a cavity my whole life. Here I am at 30 with cavities.
Right.
What? That's crazy. So to wrap up this conversation of main character energy, is there any additional like insight or just tips or something that you want to share for someone who may be coming out of the hermit hole, who is already on the, because a lot of people who listen to the podcast, they're already on their journey. They're kind of ebb and flowing in with it. So as they continue to ebb and flow, they're evolving. So you know how some things just calls for different stuff. So what are some tips that you can give those folks as they embody their light?
Have patience with yourself. Have patience with yourself and respect yourself always. And since we're in main character energy, you must demand that respect, patience, and kindness and compassion from yourself. And when you do that from yourself, you automatically call it in from others. And I just want to leave this because you sparked this idea in my head. That is a Gemini thing, by the way, that we like to look at words and like, what does that actually mean? The core. And that's actually also a divine timing tool, right? With numerology. So if you break down the word main and main character, MAIN, that is 11. It's an 11 or a 2. Okay. Right. And so if you think about being a main anything, you must always remember the divine feminine and masculine energies being the 1 and the 2, because 11 is 2 ones, right? It's 2 like magicians, sorcerers. It's 2, get it done, going in a direction, pointing my focus there and making it work. I can embody all the powers that be to get this done in this universe and this reality. But it's also 1 and 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. So it's also that presence, that slow energy, that intuition, being able to see between, right, the left and the right, and to be able to nurture into intuition, to see the truth, to feel the truth. So if you are in this understanding of I am the main character of my life, but that means that I am allowed to be an individual. 11 is individual expression. I'm allowed to be authentic. I'm allowed to be as weird as I want to be, if that's who I am. And I am allowed to know that just as I am receiving this wisdom from the universe and it's in my body, at the same time, I need to be giving this back out. So if you're in hermit mode and coming out, understand that you have everything you need to just be. You're on a double mission to be yourself authentically and to also share the truth of yourself with others, and nothing more, nothing less. That's it.
I love that. We're just gonna wrap that up with a nice applause because yes. Because yes. Now y'all see why I brought her on for this episode. Because even and actually I'll invite those. I know you listen to this one, but go back, go back and listen to I don't even remember what I think it's called Numerology with the Divine Time Goddess. And that one right there, because you broke down some 21 for my life in that moment, and that message still just it hovers in my psyche, because that when you the one thing that you said, you was like, think about being 21, like being 21 again, like you're legal, you can drink, you can have fun. It's like you have this like yearn to be free, and that is where I am. Like I'm embodying my main character energy and my spirituality, and how my the roots of hoodoo in my life, and just honoring my ancestors and going back to nature and seeing God as like nature is God. God, if you want to get to God, go into nature, period. Like, period. If you want to see, if you feel like lack is hovering your body, hovering your world, get in some green trees, go out into a field and just look how vast the grass just grows without anybody going out there and say, hey grass, I need you to grow. The grass just sprouts beautifully. Reaching for the light. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of these beautiful, beautiful words, all of the numerology breakdowns that you sprinkle in, that we just always get something of substance when me too. I always get something when chatting with you. But for those who don't get to speak with you outside of the internet, me sprinkling my privilege. But this is just it's so good. I'm so glad that we were able to sit and have this conversation, and we're to be able to share this with those who are listening. So where can the folks find you? Where can the folks come and get the vibes that you are offering to the world?
All right. So right now they can still find me at Divine Time Goddess on Instagram, DIVINETIME, but the goddess is spelled GODIS. That's the best way. And then my links are everywhere there. But yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course.
On this journey of awakening and connecting with beautiful souls like you and whoever is listening. So I'm just grateful to be.
Thank you so much. This is so good. This is so, so very good. So